Welcome, welcome, and good morning. We are at the First Unitarian Church of Pittsburgh. I am Reverend Dr. Kate R. Walker, and I am delighted to serve as the minister of this wonderful community. It is Sunday, November 7th of 2021. We are so glad that you have chosen to be with us this morning. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are from, you are welcome here. Whatever reason you chose to click on the link or found us on YouTube or the internet, you are welcome. Whether you are brand new to this community or a longtime member, thank you for being with us this morning. We are a community dedicated to welcoming the stranger and working for justice wherever the heavy weight of oppression has woven its way into our lives. I am live here this morning in our sanctuary, and I have with me here an extraordinary team that is helping this all make possible for you. Our liturgist is Ward Kelsey. On the music today is Amari Morales. We'll also have a video with Chris Rust. Our hymn leader is Kurt Summersgill. Jill, I'm getting this right. And our technical support, we have the team of Will Snavely, Andrew Papelli, and Brian Junker. Please, on behalf of all of us, thank you for being here with us. It makes our days so much more rich. If this is your first time with us, we would love to have you get to know more about us, be in touch with us. Please check us out on our website. You can find at the bottom of the website a link to get connected with our with our newsletter. And the website is first-unitarian-pgh.org. Just Google First Unitarian Church, you'll find us. And if you would like to join us after this service for some social hour and conversation, please just send us a quick email right now. Send us an email to First Unitarian Pittsburgh, just one word, firstunitarianpittsburgh@gmail.com. And you'll get an automated response with our Zoom link for our social hour. We'd love to have you. Now I invite you to take a deep breath. I invite you to allow yourself to arrive physically, mentally, and spiritually as we gather in this moment, in this time, wherever you are in place for worship, however that word means to you. Take a deep breath. Let go of all the things you're wondering if you should be doing. Let your thoughts drift away. Just be present. Take a deep breath. Picture yourself now connected to each other, others who are watching right now and in the future. And breathe. We are lighting our chalice, is the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. May this flame burn bright within your heart and mind and body. And this morning, as we explore what it is to belong and feel accepted, and the many barriers to this, how do we open up all the doors? And what holds us to the vision on the horizon, so we know that all are welcome. Let this chalice burn bright within you.
We are building a new way. start with love, that is the seed we can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, the world would die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
I want to offer you a story. It's a traditional Sudanese story, and it begins with the great creator, imagining a world and then going forth and creating it with mountains and oceans and great lands and animals and birds and fishes. And when the creator was done, told the animals and the fishes and the birds, go forth and find the place where you belong, the place that you call home. And they did. Some went over there, some went over there, and some were here, finding their sense of place and home where they belonged. The animals were so excited that they decided to have a party. And they gathered in a big clearing, and they brought all sorts of food and glorious ways to celebrate. And when the bat heard about this great party for the animals, the bat got so excited, and it cleaned its teeth, and it preened its beautiful black body and all its fur, and it flew to where the party was and landed on a branch and looked down, and it saw all the dancing and all the hooting and the howling and the barking and all the noise and festivities and the drums. Bat was so excited, and it flew down to where Zebra was standing guard. Well, hello, Zebra. Great night for a party, isn't it? Said Bat. Stop right there, said Zebra. Bat, you can't come in here. This is for animals. You're not an animal. Wait, well, yes, I am, stammered the Bat. See, I have fur, and I have teeth. I'm an animal. Nope, you got wings. I can see them, and feathers. Nope, you can't come in here. This is for animals. Bat was devastated. It flew back up to the branches and felt so crushed. It began to cry. And as the tears rolled down its face and down its body and onto its feet, it slowly was rocking back and forth and losing its grip, and finally it just slowly slipped over and hung upside down. And the tears flowed down into the earth below it. So sad. Well, about the same time, the birds heard that the animals were having a great party. And they said, we too, we're going to have a party. And they gathered in a big clearing. And they gathered seeds and nectar and berries. And they were getting all ready for the festivities when Bat heard about the party for the birds. He thought, oh, that's where I belong. Bat flew over to that field and landed in a tree and looked down at all the birds, and they were cooing and warbling and singing and whistling and hooting and having a great time. Oh, how Bat wanted to be a part of that. And it flew down to where the vulture was standing guard. Oh, Vulture, lovely night for a party, isn't it? Said Bat, hopefully. Vulture said, stop right there. This is for birds. You're not a bird. You have fur. You have teeth. Oh, no, said Bat. Look, I have wings. 1, 2, wings and feathers, see? No, you have fur, and you don't have a beak. Birds have feathers and beaks. You don't belong here. Oh, Bat was crushed again and returned back up to its trees where it cried, and it slipped slowly upside down and hung there. And that's why bats still to this day hang upside down. And they only go at night, with very, very few other critters are about, where none can feel like impacting that he's rejected yet again, be reminded that he doesn't belong. I chose to do this story in part because, well, I'm kind of terrified of bats. And this helped me understand that bats also need to feel like they belong, that they too may be part of something important in this world. I thought it was important that I face my fears and maybe think about what it's like to be a bat. So I thought it would be a good story to understand the perspective from a bat. And it's important to know that bats are considered mammals. They do belong, after all. Thank you.
Well, good morning. As well as being the liturgist this morning, I'm a member of the annual budget drive committee, and I'm here to bring you first an update on that budget drive. We kicked off our annual budget drive in October this year, a month later than in 2020. And the good news is that we have now received a greater total of pledges, $366,000 in 1 month, than we did last year in 2 months. Members and friends are demonstrating their devotion to this religious community and their commitment to ensuring that it thrives in the coming year. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Our table is getting bigger, and our gratitude is overflowing to the 132 households that have already stepped up and made their pledges for 2022. But we're not quite done yet. Although we had hoped to achieve our goal for next year of $415,000 by the end of October, we still have a little over 10% of the way to go. Folks who have pledged have said things like, First Unitarian Church is my spiritual home. It's where my friends are. It reminds me of my aspirations for a better world, and it reminds me that aspirations require practice. It has given me a safe place to grow. Our board and financial team will be crafting next year's budget this month. We hope you share the enthusiasm for this church that so many members and friends have shown so far. If you haven't made your pledge yet for 2022, please take a few minutes, go to the church website, and pledge now. Once again, many, many thanks to those who have already made their commitments to the continued financial health of our UU family. And now it is time for our regular weekly offering. Donations by check may be mailed to the church office. Electronic donations can be made online through the church website by texting GIVE to 412-435-1050 and following the instructions.
I invite you to bring your hearts into a heartfelt space as we hold all those joys and sorrows that are silent within the sanctuary of each of our members and friends. I know that there are many joys that are happening in your lives right now. Please know that we seek to celebrate with you. We also know there are many struggles, many concerns and worries. We have been set aside and isolated for too long, and this can be such a struggle for each of us. Please know that you do not continue on your journey alone. We travel together as a community. Please join me in the spirit of prayer, personal prayer, communal prayer, with a few moments of silence and meditation. May the great breath of life fill our hearts and our lungs with its powerful presence, with its life-giving force. With each breath in and out, may we feel connected to the universe and its beauty, its preciousness, its glory that calls to us to celebrate each day. May the spirit of our hearts, that too often are breaking with the pain of this world, when too many of our siblings are feeling crushed and oppressed, are feeling forgotten, cut out, and pushed aside. Our hearts break 1,000 times over, but they also heal with our words and our deeds and our pursuit of justice. May the Spirit of God and the many names that the Holy has been known throughout the ages remind us of that which is most precious in life, that which we hold deepest in our heart and minds. With each breath that we take, may we feel more connected to the universe, to the Holy, to community, to life itself. We remain ever committed to the pursuit of liberation, equality, and justice for all. Blessed be, and amen.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
This morning's reading is by Jabari S. Jones. It's called Everybody Else. Jabari Saeed Jones is a black, queer, 40-something, non-binary person on unceded Abenaki land in Vermont. They are a student of radical Dharma, a professional baker, and a novice gardener. Aren't we all? On a spring day in Farmington, Maine, as I was walking downtown, I made my way through a line of cars that were waiting for the light. In front of me was a large Confederate flag flying from the back of a white pickup truck. I crossed the street, not looking at who was driving the truck, and went into the store. As I went about my business, I felt stunned. My mind stirred with thoughts and feelings, memories and speculations. I felt fear and anger and curiosity, worry and defiance and humiliation. As I stood at the register, I chatted with the older white woman behind the counter. "Hi, how are you today?" "I'm good. How are you today?" she replied. I paused, and then I told her about the truck with the flag. She said something like, "Oh, yes, we have some of that kind around here, but don't let it upset you. Don't let it get to you." I appreciated her gesture, her attempt to comfort me. At the same time, her gesture made me more uncomfortable. She was asking me to respect that person's right to fly that flag and shrug it off like everybody else. What she failed to see, or perhaps ignore in a gesture of colorblindness wrapped in the First Amendment, is that I am not like everybody else who walks in the shadow of that flag. I am from away. My hair is coarse, my skin is dark brown. I am a black man in Maine. In so many ways, I am not like everybody else around here. But I want to belong here. In so many ways, that flag represents the denial of my rights, my belonging. It is impossible for me to blend in, to hide my black body, to not let it get to me. I don't have the privilege of hiding from history. Because I am conscious, I know what it is. I know its name. It rides in the back of a pickup truck. It proudly stalks around town like an alpha predator. It clings to me like a nightmare, while it seems like everyone else is walking through a dream. I point at the thing and say, "Look!" And the crowd replies, "Yes, but..." When I hear yes, I feel heard. When I hear but, I become invisible. My life doesn't matter. It's this but, this disbelief in the truth of black bodies, this tolerance for something that is ugly and intolerant, that is the terror that everybody else allows to walk in their midst, a casual terror that I cannot escape any more than I can escape my own body or my own consciousness. A terror that makes all lives matter less. I struggle to wake up from the nightmare and the dream that is its mirror image. I struggle to make my life matter, for black lives to matter, so that all lives will matter.
When my husband, Mark, and I first moved to Alexandria, Virginia back in 2008, we were seeking friendships outside of the church, people who didn't care that I was a minister. And so we went to meetup groups on the internet, and we found a meetup group that met in a neighborhood not too far from us at a restaurant. And what bonded this group was our mutual love for a TV series called Firefly that was then turned into a movie called Serenity. It's directed and written by a genius named Joss Whedon. So we were all fans of this television show, and that's what brought us together. And we went, my husband and I, we had lunch with them and got to know people, and we seemed to be accepted, and that was lovely. Around the third or the fourth time of meeting at the restaurant, we went to the room that was set aside, and we were the first ones there. And the table was set up in a big L, and we sat at one end. And another couple arrives, and they sat next to us, and then another person and sat next to us. But then the next group arrived, and they sat at the other end of the table. We said hi to each other, but they distinctly chose the other end of the table. And then some more people arrived, and they sat with the other group. And then the people who originally sat with us, those three, moved to the other side of the table, leaving my husband and I alone. Eventually, a couple people joined us. But Mark and I thought, maybe we don't belong here after all. Maybe we didn't quite find our group yet of friends. Finding a sense of belonging and connection and fun with other people can be hard. And I'm telling you, that is easy for extroverts. But for introverts and a few who can fake it, it can be really, really difficult. And frankly, I recognize that people who get together for geeky and nerdy television shows and movies are more likely to be introverts, and it can be really quite a stretch to find a way to connect and reach out to each other. We can be quite shy and difficult. Do you know what do vegans and introverts have in common? Both avoid meat. Do you know what the first rule of Introvert Club is? There is no introvert club. This is what it is to be an introvert. And alas, many Unitarian Universalists are a bit introverted, a bit nerdy, a bit shy, not always good at welcoming the stranger, particularly if the stranger is really different from us. Well, we can't always rely on the extroverts to welcome people. It can be hard on all those, well, the few extroverts that we have in our midst. But after talking about, through the summer and the fall, about radical hospitality and about the need to welcome more people, and we're going to need a bigger table, I have to ask today, how do Unitarian Universalists really welcome people so that they have a sense of belonging in our community? When we have certain norms in our identity of who we are, how do we bring people in so they feel connected if they have different norms, different cultures, values, and beliefs? What if they don't initially fit in? How do we adapt, or do we ask them to adapt to us? Now, I'm going to note that I am assuming certain characteristics and norms of Unitarian Universalism, that we're predominantly white, privileged, European white, actually, white privileged, mostly well-educated. These are predominant norms, and certainly not all members fit into this norm at all, but many have a hard time fitting in, finding a sense of belonging. What we know is that in 2020, the Unitarian Universalist Association published Widening the Circle, where they did extensive research, particularly reaching out to Unitarian Universalists who are Black, Indigenous, people of color. And what we discovered is that a lot of them don't feel like they really belong. They talk about how easy it is just to slip away, not be affirmed and accepted for who they are, because they bring different cultural norms. It doesn't take much. It's kind of frightening how easy it is to jolt something that's a miss for a new person, something that we say, something that we sing or don't sing, or we ignore them because they're holding the wrong color mug during social hour. Or we too many people on them all at the same time, and they're overwhelmed with too much attention. Maybe it's the artwork that doesn't speak to them, or photographs on the walls, the music that's chosen, the sermon that's preached. Maybe there's no religious education, no choir, or maybe it's an unhealthy choir. There's any number of contributions to why people don't feel welcome and how hard it is actually to integrate people so they feel connected. But one of those is also a lack of vision. Why are we here? What are we all struggling for? Or the vision is there and it's stated, but we're not actually pursuing it. There's no evidence that the vision is important to us, that we're passionate about it. All of these barriers, unfortunately, are also supported by our own brains. Our own brains are working against us. We're kind of hardwired in a not so healthy way, so to speak. Back in 2009, the Society for Neuroscience published a study that said that we have less empathy toward others that are not part of our group, our social group. We feel more empathy for people that we are already assimilated with, already in the same social group. The study showed that when we perceive and hear about the pain in somebody who is in a different social group, certain triggers in our brain don't turn on. Empathy about observing and hearing somebody's pain is not triggered if they're from a different race. The findings show that these unconscious prejudice against outside groups exist at a very basic level, and we can confirm it in neuroimaging. This is a tough one to accept and deal with, that there are some deep barriers within our own brains and how evolution has created this pathway. There's a wonderful quote from Helen Palmer. She was a 20th century children's author, and she happened also to be married to Dr. Seuss. And she offered these wise words long before neuroscience showed us what she already knew. And she said, "It is important to stress the ways that people are different from each other, because so much of the suffering that we experience in our relationships with other people is caused by the fact that we are blind to their point of view." End quote. We heard this wisdom as well in the reading from Jabari Jones, the non-binary person of color, who was simply walking down the street, seeking community, seeking a sense of belonging, when jolted awake by the sight of oppression, a Confederate flag, reminding Jabari of all the oppressions that they have had to experience. So what does Jabari do? What do? They share their pain with a stranger, the cashier. And the cashier responds by minimizing, dismissing pain upon pain. It makes me think about a chant I learned long ago. It was written by Paramahansa Yogananda, who was the author of Autobiography of a Yogi. And the chant has a simple phrasing. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. Such moving words that invite us to open up our heart and listen to the pain of the other, to find a way to connect, accept, affirm, be with someone in their pain and their joy. But despite all these barriers, despite our own neural pathways in our brains, we have to persist and opening our ears and our eyes and our bodies to being with each other again and again, to hear the pain that's expressed as well as the joys, to be able to journey with each other, to lament and to celebrate in this human journey. This is the work of community, to keep pushing past the barriers, to recognize they don't have to exist. It requires intentionality, to be persistent, to accept change that may be uncomfortable, probably will be uncomfortable, and yet we will sit with it and be with it. Because here's a foundational truth about communities. In order to exist, the members need a sense of belonging, to connect, to accept, be affirmed, and be inspired, to feel a part of something whole and holy. And we know that belonging, it's also about survival. It's a deep packed instinct. It's crucial to species survival, and it's likely why our brains evolved to limit empathy. We feel connected to our pack, not our enemy who might be a threat to our species. Sometimes we need to let go of old habits, even if evolution has handed it to us. Belonging to community can save lives. And these days, it can give us help relieve our loneliness and depression and help increase and stabilize our spiritual health. That's crucial to saving lives today in very real emotional ways. And to some degree, we sometimes need to recognize that we all belong to some subgroups in one way or another. Mark and I did find a group of friends right in our own neighborhood through our neighborhood dog park. We bonded over our dogs and, well, frankly, good beer. And it was wonderful. We went to each other's weddings and we hung out at parties for Halloween and Christmas. And we were there every night, even in bad weather. I am deeply committed to Unitarian Universalist Association and the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association. I'm a part of that pack, that group. I'm a union gal, you might say. And I'm part of my family's pack. I married into a new pack, and all of these packs for me include dogs and cats, of course, and other critters as well, not just humans. But this is also the goal, isn't it, for all of us, to be radically inclusive so that no one is left behind. Everyone is at the table, feels welcome. They're eager to be transformed into something new and wonderful. Isn't that our goal, right? Isn't that our goal? I've been preaching about that ever since I arrived, that everyone should be accepted. But I'm going to do a full stop and ask a dangerous question. I'm going to sound like I'm completely reversing everything I've been saying for the last few months about radical hospitality and needing a bigger table. Should everyone be accepted and welcomed? Are some people not welcome because of what they believe, how they behave, and what they say and how they treat other people? There's a persistent myth within Unitarian Universalism that this is the church where we can believe whatever we want. That's a myth. I'm going to state it pretty clearly that boundaries can be healthy. Permeable boundaries are healthy. We don't want no boundaries, but we don't want hard boundaries, permeable boundaries. It's actually important to help determine who is in and part of the group and helping us with our vision and who is harmful. How do we keep ourselves safe? Who can be harmful to our Black, Indigenous, people of color, our LGBTQI, our disabled, our mental health consumers, our working class, and all who have been marginalized? They all need protection at times. Often within the folds of the community, we, speaking of myself as a white privileged woman, I need to serve as an ally. We need to be advocates or witness to oppressive acts and statements and make sure that they don't harm people. We keep learning where the barriers are healthy. Does radical hospitality ask us to accept everyone? Well, people who want to be transformed, that's a requirement. If they come in with hate in their hearts, then we're inviting them to be transformed into beacons of love. But not everyone is willing or able to. Perhaps they've gotten too attached to their pain and their fear and their anger. It's become part of their identity and they can't let go. They're not seeking healing or transformation. I offer as an example the alt-right leader Richard Spencer. He's actually part of a civil trial that's going on right now in connection to the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally that happened in 2017. Richard Spencer lived in Alexandria for several years, not too far from where I lived. And he had an office right on King Street in Old Town. And when the community found out that Richard Spencer had opened up shop right there in Old Town in Alexandria, they started to protest. They showed up at his office, making it clear that he wasn't welcome. And when they found out where he lived, they showed up at his apartment as well, making it clear he wasn't welcome. Eventually, Richard Spencer played the victim, and he left. He moved back to Montana to be near his mother. I'm not saying was that right or wrong about expelling him from that community, but he was harming people with his words and his deeds, and he didn't want to change. Society has a long history of protecting the vulnerable through all sorts of means. Boundaries can help save lives. Unitarian Universalists were fully present in Charlottesville in 2017, and I'm very proud of that. For a while, there was a neighbor at my former church, Mount Vernon Unitarian, who had put up a big Confederate flag on the side of their shed. The neighbor's yard backed up into our driveway, and every time you left the church, you could see this big Confederate flag on the side of their shed. And I knew people were being harmed. So one day I invited a member of the church who was also a neighbor to come with me, and we went and visited this neighbor with the Confederate flag. We talked with the woman who lived there. She said it was her husband's flag. And I said, okay. And I just asked questions, and I asked questions about the flag and what it meant to them and why they had it, and we talked maybe 10 minutes. And I said, look, we probably have 300 or 400 people driving up and down that driveway every day looking at that flag, and some of them are people of color. And I can tell you right now, it hurts when they see it. And I just wanted you to know that. She said, thank you for telling me. And we left. And a few days later, the flag came down. And then I got a really lovely note from the woman who said, thank you. Thank you for coming and just listening and for the conversation. And that was all. Never talked again. And the flag never went back up. Speaking up, being an ally, bearing witness, establishing healthy boundaries, it broadcasts a clear vision for all to see. It broadcasts who we are striving to be, who is safe and needs to heal. And it also makes clear that harm is not welcome. We humans, we mammals, we've been evolving with our civilization by creating and maintaining healthy boundaries since we first kind of walked out of that muck. But lately, I have noticed I'm sure you have as well, there's been strong corrections going on in the United States. New barriers have been popping up that have been excluding people who already belong in groups because perhaps they said something harmful, wrote something harmful. Anne Applebaum, in the October issue of Atlantic, wrote an interesting essay asking about due process when someone has done harm to another. Have we forgotten due process? with our shame and our ostracism and our proverbial scarlet letters and obligatory apologies. She raises interesting questions about forgiveness and reconciliation and how do we reunite somebody back into community. It's a really interesting essay. I don't agree with everything she says, but I think she raises some important points. Creating, maintaining healthy, permeable boundaries are part of community. It is the hard work, and it can be uncomfortable. It can raise fear and anger and resentment. But it also can be one where people truly feel like they are welcome. And it's where we can finally create the vision that we all have created together. But there is a tension point. There is a tension point that belongs in community, and that is when community becomes constricting, where it limits our growth, our capacity to unfurl and be creative in those dreams and those visions of being accepted. And part of community is just the first part. We also have to be challenged to grow and to change, to be uncomfortable, to be transformed. A very wise young author, born in late 20th century, named Madison Taylor, said trees need their protective bark to enable the delicate process of growth and renewal to unfold without threat. Likewise, we must have our boundaries and defenses so that the more vulnerable parts of ourselves can safely heal and unfold. But our growth also depends upon our ability to soften, loosen, and discard boundaries and defenses that we no longer need. It is often the case in life that structures we put in place to help us grow eventually become constricting. End quote. We have to have new ideas, new cultural influences, new languages, fresh energy, revitalizing old ideas into new visions. That can be painful, the letting go, but it is the path to thriving. Yesterday, at the annual meeting of the Unitarian Universalists of Greater Pittsburgh, we were reminded by a young person of color that sometimes we need to refresh our principles and our resources and our purposes. We have 7 principles right now, but they're not written on a stone tablet. It's a living document. And in fact, it emerged out of the 1980s after a couple hundred years of theological change and turmoil. They didn't just pop up at a committee. They have a history. But there is a time that we need to allow for growth and insight and the voices from the margins who have some thoughts to share, which is why a proposed 8th principle is out in front of us. It's an active statement, not passive. It's proclaiming a commitment to dismantling racism and white supremacy. And here's the active part. It holds us accountable. Unlike any other of our principles, it holds us accountable. And we are hearing from our Unitarian Universalists who are people of color who said that 8th principle will help them feel more welcome, like they belong, like they matter. I will be preaching about the 8th principle come this winter, I promise. The work of healthy boundaries, the work of building and maintaining community relies on vision, the dreams of a better world that guides us in our most troubled times and reminds us, and all of us, that when we are lost, why do we exist? The vision is the beacon of hope, the road sign. It is the vision of the better world. And what are the vision here at First Unitarian Church of Pittsburgh? I've got bad news and good news. We don't have one. That's the bad news and the good news. We don't have one. Haven't for at least a near while. We have mission, we have goals, strategic plans, a lot of policies, but no vision, the why and the what. I think this is exciting. And fortunately, we already have a committee in place that is charged to do just this kind of work. The Vision, Identity, and Mission Committee is ready and willing to take on the task, and you are going to be invited to participate in creating a vision up there, the big stuff, the bus that really compels us forward. This is the stuff that excites me. Creative work, the promised land, the land of plenty, the land of reciprocity, of regeneration, of mutual flourishing, where everyone knows they are loved from the moment they are conceived and born. Land where everyone is truly welcome at the table, can bring their pain and know they will be heard, can be seen and felt, and celebrate with love and humor and song and dance. This is a vision worth holding out for the world to see. And here's some other good news. According to the survey that the search committee conducted, almost everyone, not everyone, but almost everyone is committed to growth at this church. That's exciting, which means extroverts, we're really going to need you. We introverts are going to need a little bit of push and pull to step out, to move into and welcome people. You're on task, extroverts. Thank you. In the meantime, blessed be and amen.
Be ours a religion which like sunshine gives everywhere its temple, all space, its shrine, the good heart, its creed, all truth, its ritual works of love. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple, all space, its shrine, the good heart, its creed, all truth, its ritual works of love. Be ours a religion which like sunshine gives everywhere its temple, all space, its shrine, the good heart, its creed, all truth, its ritual works of love.
I offer my gratitude to all the team this morning for helping create a space for worship, and I offer my gratitude to all of you for being with us. I invite you, if you have a chalice at home, to extinguish it. We have words hopefully in our hearts, but also in our order of service, words that are shared by Unitarian Universalist churches all across the country. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go forth, my people. Go forth, you are the beloved. Go forth and start to create a vision for this community, one that we can broadcast for the world with our words and our deeds and our acts of love and deeds of justice. Come again, you are always welcome.